Hello Internet, welcome back to the Experimental Cataclysm. If you don't know, this is a show where we talk about updates that have come to the experimental version of Cataclysm over the last couple of weeks. There's actually quite a bit to talk about. After 0.E's release, there's been an influx of new content and things, but we're just going to talk about some of the ones that stood out to me. And again, I'm going off of the change logs. I no longer sift through GitHub. I find it incredibly tedious. So I just let the changelog do the work for me. So if something came up 3 days ago and I haven't seen it yet, that's why it's not in the show. Go ahead, of course, leave me some comments down below if I missed something that was a particularly important change. Let me know down below because I know people like seeing that. Anyway, let's jump into it. First, from Code Bandit, we have it adds mouth and arm info to the Encumbrance Display. So if you don't know, in your app menu, if you tab over to the encumbrance and warmth, you can actually select a specific body part and it will give you information about the encumbrance penalty. So if you have very bad torso encumbrance, which I don't even see on this menu, torso would be your miss percentages and things like that in Melee, and if you hover over that, it displays that down here. Well, previously arms and mouth did not have anything displayed here, so now we can actually see kind of a quantifiable, like we can actually measure the encumbrance that we're experiencing. So it's not 100% perfect, right? Because here we have melee stamina cost plus 42. That number is a bit ambiguous to a player who doesn't necessarily know their exact stamina pool. But you can still use that to gauge whether, how much worse certain items are, how much worse it gets with encumbrance, things like that. And then same with stamina regen, it's just this kind of nebulous number. -2 to stamina regen. What precisely does that mean? I don't know, but I know it's better than -5 stamina regen, and I know it's worse than +0. So, it's something for which you can base, to read your encumbrance and see the actual impact that it has on your character. Small change, good change, wanted to mention it. Moving on. Next, we have the new military pilot profession. This is, of course, after the helicopters have been added to the game. I believe there was only one profession that had the pilot attached to it or name attached to it. I remember looking in our last episode, and we only found the one. This adds a second profession called the military pilot profession. Everything was based off of zombie military pilots, which makes sense. That would be a good thing to kind of base that off of. And of course they get, as far as I know, the piloting ability. And they are added to the helicopter crash scenario start. So yeah, it's nice. I know that helicopter crash is a little bit lackluster in regards to how many professions there are. I think it's only like 4 professions. Maybe not. Maybe it's been a long time since I looked. But it's cool that they added a military pilot. Wanted to shout that out because I know a lot of people, again, are fooling around with helicopters, and this facilitates that a little bit further. This is from Competently Incompetent. Excellent. Excellent name, my friend. Moving on. Separate shelter types from CapSAR273. So if you don't know, a couple months ago there was a rework to the evac shelter where they got additional layouts. I believe it is the standard shelter, the partially looted shelter, and then the vandalized shelter, if I remember right. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be. It looks like there's 3 variants of the regular shelter and then 3 variants of the vandalized shelter. Anyway, there were a lot of people who were kind of irritated by this because they would start their game and they'd end up in the vandalized shelter. And if you're a new player, obviously you want the good shelter because there's a lot of food and things like that there that you can utilize for quite a while. So this has separated it. So in the location menu, remember on the character screen, the final screen of character creation where it displays your character's name, starting scenario, all that, your traits, everything on one page. If you hit the slash key, I believe it's backslash, no, it might be /, it will allow you to spawn in a slightly different location. And here you can actually select, do I want the regular shelter, the vandalized shelter, or do I want a random shelter? So although I don't think it was strictly necessary because I like the random element, they didn't remove that, right? You can still choose a random location and have that function, and this will spare people, because honestly, there were people who were just save scumming over and over and over until they got a good variant. Obviously, we can just give them that and save people a bunch of trouble. So I think it's a fine change. Thank you to Capsar. Moving on. Obsolete scrap weapons. This is from Kevin. And yeah, I think this one was one that was done before E and then just kind of hung around for a little while. 21 days ago. Oh, maybe not. Because I remember people having a real negative reaction to scrap weapons being removed. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I mean, they talked about pneumatic guns, and specifically the mini nuke launcher is like the one thing that I think should be craftable still. It's essentially like, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but in my head it's like the Fallout, what is it, the Fat Man? And it's basically just a framework that launches a mini nuke. It's not like something that's impossible to craft. So that's like the one thing I thought like, that could probably be left in the game. But otherwise, there's some of that, they were just ridiculous. Like they're kind of a holdover from a long time ago where there was a lot more scrap, kind of the player just cobbling together pretty efficient stuff from basically no materials. And I just don't think it really fits with where the game is at currently. So I know I had a lot of people who were complaining about this. I didn't read this conversation, but on Discord, people had a very negative reaction to this. And I just think, I think it's fine. I think it's a good change even. If we can find a list here, what exactly was removed so I can show everyone all the things. That's right, Helsing was one, and Tihar. Those are not what their names display as in-game. All I'm seeing is the mini nuke launcher here, unfortunately. Okay, the coil gun, which would be called, yes, the coil gun. So that has been removed. It looks like the nail rifle has been removed. I know that's one people often use. The pneumatic assault rifle has been, added? No, they're added to obsolete. Okay, so yes, the pneumatic assault rifle, pneumatic bolt driver, pipe double shotgun, mini nuke launcher, heavy rail rifle, ferromagnetic rail rifle, the coil gun, the nail rifle mag. Oh man, mini nuke launcher. Yeah, those seem to be all inclusive of what was removed. They've been obsoleted, so if they're currently in your game, it's not like they will be erased from existence, but they will no longer spawn in new games, and they will no longer be craftable and things like that. So these were removed. I just wanted to shout it out because I saw such an overwhelming negative reaction to this. Again, I think a lot of it makes sense and is fine, but because people had a strong reaction, I figured some of you would want to hear about it. So yeah, moving on. Ember removed the modular vest. That's the MBR vest. If we remember, Ember is the one who implemented the ESAPI vest, if I recall correctly, and they pushed to remove the MBR vest from the game. I don't love that. I kind of feel like they should have been kept around until we got a rework of armor in general. Again, my dislike of the ESAPI vest is well documented. I really dislike that vest, mostly because it's far and away more powerful than any other vest in the game. Now, I understand that is because it's meant to be bulletproof, and currently the only way to really do that in Cataclysm is to make it outrageously powerful. But I don't feel we should be removing older armor until we're ready until someone starts reworking the values, right? It just doesn't make sense to me to remove something that there's no harm in leaving this in the game until things get reworked. But it's also not a huge impact. So, I just wanted to shout it out. So we're not going to see MBR vests anymore. It's a little bit of an issue, actually, because it was one of the best places to find super alloy plates. In my experience, I mostly found them from MBR vests. But, I don't think that this is a big deal. I just thought I would mention it. Next, we have a butchering kit added to the game by Ampersand55. It consists of a butcher knife, carving knife, and meat cleaver. Now, I don't really understand the need for this. It basically adds kind of like the toolbox, right? It's just a tool that has multiple qualities based on what you have put into it. I just don't see the benefit of it. It will let us roleplay Dexter, I guess. If you're into role-playing Dexter, you can have it like a murder kit with you. But I just don't really see the need for it because it's only really one set of qualities, like one item I'm not sure which are which, but like one item could potentially have these qualities. So I'm not sure why I need to invest 3 items into a single item that would also just have the same qualities essentially. I can just as easily carry one nice knife in my inventory, so I don't necessarily see a point to this, but I think it's fine. I don't think anything is wrong with it. It's just probably not something I'm going to use very much, but it should be something that's pretty easily craftable. Looks like it's Fab Zero. Essentially all you're doing is putting these things into a bundle of rags, it looks like, which is fine. Again, I just don't necessarily know that it needed to be added to the game, but there's nothing wrong with it. I don't want to crap on it. It's fine. So yeah, Butcher Kit is something you can do now. Next from Brian Otten, we had 2 that I saw, possibly more PRs that change or expand on player crafted explosive devices. So specifically, it adds a new craftable small fragmentation devices, adds multiples, I suppose. Looks like it's, when I was looking at it, they broke them down into 3 categories. There was bootleg, improvised, and makeshift. These just represent the different types. I did not really understand. They tried to explain them in the conversation in one of these, and I didn't really get it. What the 3 are supposed to represent. I think the names are a little ambiguous because I just don't really. It says primitive, but I don't really know the difference between primitive, improvised, and bootleg. And then in the conversation, they said that they were all comparable. So like I don't really get the differentiation between the names. So I'm a little confused by that. But ultimately, this adds a few different grenades and explosive fragmentation devices. And I think that this is just, an expansion on player-made grenades. The player-made grenades that existed already were a little bit nebulous, and this seems to be an attempt at kind of refining that into more specific items. So I think that that is a good change. I actually did not look at this much. I did a thing with explosives recently and was pretty unimpressed, so I'm not super into explosives in Cataclysm, so I didn't spend a lot of time looking into this. And again, I was just a little confused by what the naming convention. I don't really understand what the difference is. So, sorry, I can't really convey that to you much better than that. Next up from Lyle SY, we have roof monsters. So if you've ever been on a roof in Cataclysm, they're largely devoid of life, unsurprisingly. Now, there's been some stuff done to kind of spice up rooftops. They, I think it was Curse Twist, did a whole lot of work adding, was it Curse Twist? Added all those roofs to the game, added solar panels to roofs and miscellaneous roof apparatus and things. This will add monsters to the roofs, both animals and zombies. What I like about this is that it will give you something to find up there. What I don't like is that zombies are dumb and they're inevitably going to just walk off the roof. Especially if you have Z levels on and whatnot, and you're walking around and the zombies are capable of spotting you or something, they're just going to walk off the edge a lot of the time. Additionally, a lot of the roof animals are birds and they're just going to leave. So it's kind of like as soon as you get on the roof, a lot of times the animals are just going to go away, and it's like there's nothing wrong with this change. I think it's an interesting change. I think it's good to add the animals. I'm a little uncertain of whether or not I like the rooftop zombies. I would rather than just spawning them willy-nilly on rooftops, I would rather them be placed strategically on certain rooftops where they can be caged in an area so that you can kind of prevent them from walking off the edge and getting themselves killed. Because it just doesn't make sense to me that you would go up on a rooftop like 6 weeks into the Cataclysm and the zombies would still be on the roof, right? Because I feel like they would have meandered off by then. So like I'm not super into this change. I think adding animals is fine. I'm a little reluctant to say I like the rooftop zombies. That said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There's nothing they did wrong, looking at their changes and stuff. It's perfectly fine. It's just a bunch of basic zombies that are going to show up there. The beekeeper being here is a little bit surprising. I wouldn't have expected that. I don't know what a beekeeper is doing on the roof. But for the most part, I shouldn't be complaining. I'm not complaining. You did a fine thing. It's just not like super interesting to me, but I thought, people are going to start seeing them on the rooftop. They'll probably want to know. Probably shouldn't jiggle the screen like that, so let's move on. Next, we have a new starting scenario called The Last Delivery. In fact, we're going to pop into the game and pull this up so we can read the description and whatnot. Alright, The Last Delivery. When the world was falling apart, someone... Oh, again, I do spoilers. So, like, if you're into discovering things on your own, obviously I'm about to spoil what this looks like. The world was falling apart. Someone called to order some of Food Place's delicious food, TM. And they sent you to do the delivery. You're not sure about much. The one thing is certain, that delicious food is going to get delivered, even if it's the last thing that you do. Okay, so we'll select that. We start as either a survivor or the true food person, which we've seen previously when they added the food person stuff and Food Place back in the day. I have no interest in being the food person. I know a lot of people love it. It's not really my scene. Let's just jump into the game here. Starting location, random location with one variant. Or a gas station. Why is this set up like this? Did that shelter change all locations so that it can be randomized or specific? That's interesting. It looks like this only has one available, so it will be the gas station no matter what. We'll select random and see if it puts us at the gas station. I believe is how that reads. We don't need points, I don't care. Let's get in here, see what we're doing. Oh, this is, what's going on with you, computer? My computer's spinning up like it's about to take off. You're not sure about much. Your one thing is certain, that delicious food. Yes, okay. So here we are. Oh, sorry, normally I have my UI scaled up, but I don't currently, so everything's going to be smaller than it would be in my current Let's Play. So let's spawn a clairvoyance artifact. How do I do this? Spawn, clairvoyance, boop. It's just a regular old gas station. Oh. Okay. I thought this would be like a specific location, like a brand new location for this mission. Looks like we got a drug deal out here, which is interesting. Yeah, some meth, okay. So it's just a regular gas station, not even a surrounded start, huh? It did say specifically about, I'm not sure why this is dirt tiles in this lot either. Probably just the swamp overlapping somehow. I thought it said something about spawning with a vehicle. Hatchback, no faction. No faction. So one of these would be ours, right? Presumably. No faction. Oh, it says food truck. Yes. Your followers. Yes. That is us. Now they all say your faction. Well, whatever. Food truck presumably is the vehicle that we came in. Looks like we hit a crash here. I'm not sure if that will always be spawned here or not. But it's pretty nice to have a vehicle that starts with some fridges and a... oh, with the delicious food and everything. Isn't that nice? So you start with some food. It is 500 calories precisely. And it is guaranteed 100% edible. Edible, huh? Edible is how you say that word if you're not an idiot. So, a nice little vehicle. It does appear to be in working condition. Battery, gas, tank. Yep, looks great. And it's in pretty excellent condition considering... I mean, I guess we just drove it here. So it's a guaranteed good vehicle. That's pretty powerful. And since there's no zombies here, it's like pretty free. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I just... yeah, seems like a very easy start. You do start kind of in the middle of nowhere. Up, the food truck is marked. Is this not the food truck? Is it? Yeah, this is not the car we're remembering. I am confused. Why is it marked up here? Food truck. I thought that was supposed to update with the position of our car. Wreckage. Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, let's get out of here. So yeah, definitely a roleplay thing. You start with a vehicle which is pretty good, pretty powerful early game. Yeah, nothing. I kind of thought it would be a surrounded start, but it looks like it's pretty open. I guess that's not guaranteed that it would be a clean start every time. I suppose, things can spawn wherever. But I think the main thing about this is like roleplay and flavor to the world. They wanted to expand. This is from Frizz, by the way. Wanted to expand the food person mythos and food place and whatnot. So I think that's a perfectly fine change. It does seem very easy, so it's suitable for new players. I know a lot of the scenarios can be pretty tough for new players. So hey, if you're new and you're looking for something different to play, go ahead and give this one a shot. You'll start with a vehicle that has some beneficial stuff in it, and some food and whatnot that will help you in the early game. So not necessarily for me, but definitely something I would recommend to newer players based on what we just saw. Moving on. Next, we had a few achievement-related PRs, and I'm going to link all 3 that I saw down below in the description, so if you want to check them out, you can. But basically, it's just a slight expansion on the achievement system that we discussed in the last episode. We discussed the kind of infrastructure for achievements being implemented into the game. Jay, by the way, has allowed it to have descriptions, so now when you see an achievement in the game, it will give you some description. So for instance, within 1 minute of start of game, you have to kill a monster to get this particular achievement. So pretty basic. Obviously, we want descriptions. So a nice little thing here that has been added. So that is cool. Additionally, from Jay, by the way, and I can never say, I don't know how to say your name, so I'm just gonna call you Gorgonon. Sure. Don't take it personal. So Jay, by the way, and Gorgonon have added various little achievements. So for instance, he was, I believe he added the Every Rose Has Its Thorn achievement. And then the 1 down, billions to go was in previously. The movement related ones, that's specifically what this PR is about, is movement based achievements and stats. So here we can also see that the scores have been expanded a little bit as well, because previously not all of this was there. And similarly, here we have a survival achievement. I believe this is for surviving, I thought there was a picture. Surviving certain number of days, survive 1 day, for instance. So it's just setting it up for the future. Adding, basically right now, this is still more infrastructure stuff. These are mostly, I think, test achievements. And things like that. So yeah, definitely excited to see those getting expanded. I'm excited to see where they go from here, of course, and I'm excited to start racking up achievements in Cataclysm. I know some of you are as well. I got more comments than I expected about people who are very excited about achievements. So just want to throw it out there, devs. People seem to really like it, so that's great. Moving on, let's get rid of these. Spear and staff rebalance. Yeah, so I just grabbed this particular PR. There's like 9 other ones, and their goal is to rebalance the weapons in Cataclysm, well, melee weapons in particular. So here I just grabbed the staff and spear rebalance PR. I am very hesitant to say I like this. I think we could probably do with a full rework of melee weapons, and I think armor as well could do a major rework. There are quite a few things, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. The health stat could use a But anyway, so I'm not super thrilled with this. Basically, from what I've seen, it makes things more powerful. Like, all the ones I looked at seemed like they were buffing. Every single weapon I looked at seemed to be getting a buff, which I guess that is good. I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like with armor where it's at, there's no need to buff every single item. Like, look, every single one of these is getting a buff, and I just don't really... I don't know why this is happening. I don't really understand. Oh, that one actually got debuffed a little bit. Well, good. I don't really understand why these changes are necessary. I'm not sure what they do. Like, I'm not sure what the benefit of boosting damage is and changing to hit is. It seemed like things were mostly pretty okay balanced. I mean, I guess it's... You get into a mindset of it's like, why change something that isn't broken? And it never really seemed like it was broken to me. So I don't really necessarily understand why there's being a major rework of melee weapons. But there is. So you may notice that your weapons are hitting a little bit harder in the future. From what I saw, it boosts the damage on basically every single weapon I looked at. But some of them had their to hit modifiers changed as well. So you might be hitting harder, but you might have a harder time hitting enemies. I just really don't understand what the need for this was. I fully admit I'm not a part of the dev team. I don't really contribute that much. I don't really pay that much in detail attention, and I don't min-max very often. So for all I know, something was majorly broken and I'm just not aware of it. I'm assuming because they're all getting merged and it looks like some people from the dev team are signing off on it, that to me implies that this is a good change, and I just don't personally understand it. So I just wanted to make you aware that all the weapons seem to be getting reworked. Melee weapons are getting reworked, and I don't fully understand it, so I can't really relate to you why this is happening. But I can say, again, it seems like all the damage is getting boosted, and a lot of the hits are being kind of rebalanced. Some of those are positive, some of those are negative changes, but yeah, I don't really know why this is happening. I guess it needed done. I don't have much to say about it. Next from Curse Twist, again, I just pulled a random PR. There were many basement changes in the last couple weeks, specifically from Curse Twist, adding nested map gen to the various basements, adding new basements, things like that. So basements are changing. If you haven't noticed, a lot of the newer, if you've started a game recently, a lot of basements were having these boxes in them. They were pretty sparse as far as things go. This is a move towards adding nested chunks to basements. We discussed them before. A nested chunk is basically a smaller chunk of a building that is its own random generation. So for instance, this might be static and it will always be the same layout, which is what we see here in these three images. This section is identical in every one of these, but it's randomly generating this particular area and pulling from a list of possible layouts, right? So it's basically random generation inside of the other generation. So for instance, once this is fully fleshed out, he could have a section over here that randomizes the bathroom every time. It just changes the layout slightly, changes the item groups, changes this little, storage area. I don't really know what I'm looking at. Zoom it in. Yeah, I have no idea what that is. Some shelving and some big metal something. But he could change this section every single time and have it come up with a different layout or different item groups. This could be a different layout every time, and this could be a different layout every time. So it lets you nest different random chunks inside of larger map gen. So I really like nested chunks. They're one of my favorite things. When I learned about them, it was one of the things that excited me the most when I was learning to mod and whatnot. They're not the easiest thing to work with, definitely not for beginners, but once you see them in action, you're kind of like, man, these are really great, and everything should be using them all the time. So, yeah, definitely nice to see that expansion and change of basements. Basements are one of those things, once you see them all, you see them over and over and over and over, and they're always kind of the same. So, anything to spice that up is welcome by me. And again, this is one of probably 6 or 7 different PRs that I saw, and if I saw that many, I probably missed a bunch as well. So definitely some movement with basement changes. Let's move on. Next, from Night, we got a lockpicking overhaul, and I don't even know if you noticed this, because I did not notice this, but it adds a lockpicking skill to the game. Rather than using mechanics, previously lockpicking used mechanics, so if you were a competent mechanic, you were able to pick just about every lock in the game pretty easily, and it basically adds a lockpicking skill. There's tons of math here if you actually want to know the nitty-gritty of it. I don't care, frankly. I don't really lockpick in the game as it is. It's very rare that I do so. But it got its own skill, which I think is really cool. It is displayed in the app menu, so you can see that right now if you go into your app menu and take a look. Here we have the example. So it's in interaction skills, and it's a lockpicking. So, yeah, it's interesting. I do think that kind of expansion of skills, this is the first skill we've covered in this show over the course of the last year. I do think that some skills need to be expanded and some skills need to be collapsed into other skills. So, for instance, I think lockpicking is an excellent example of a skill that should have been a standalone skill. Obviously, mechanics and lockpicking are different. There is some similarity. I'm pretty sure if I hand my mechanic a set of lockpicking tools, he could probably figure it out. But ultimately, I think that lockpicking should be its own standalone skill. Similarly, I think that cooking and chemistry should be separated, or science, or whatever you want to call it, because currently cooking mutagen is the same as cooking lasagna, and that just seems silly. Similarly, I think that trapping and survival should probably be combined into one group. But that's not this discussion. This discussion is about lockpicking. So I think it's really cool that they separated them. I think it was a good decision, and it's pretty rare that we get a new skill. So I'm sure that they will in the future be adding books for lockpicking. Maybe some other items that would increase our lockpicking skill. Be cool if they could add lockpick sets, or practice lock sets. I mean, lockpicking is something I'm very interested in real life, and have never been able to take the time and actually learn to do. So it's pretty cool that they added this to the game, so I'm pretty happy to see that. And then finally we have a new monster. This is again, spoilers people, adds the Elite Zombie Bio-Operator monster. Now we're all probably familiar with zombie bio-operators. They're the ones mostly I see them in barracks, in labs is really the only place I ever see them. Incredibly dangerous. They have a martial ability. When you approach them and get in range of them, they can body slam you, essentially knock you to the ground and beat you up real bad. They also contain military CBMs, which is highly prized CBMs. So they're pretty dangerous on their own if you're not prepared for them. At range with a gun, they're nothing. It's not a big deal. And here now we have the elite version of that creature. It's beefier for sure. Here we can see 60 more hit points, which is pretty substantial. That's an extra bullet of 5.56, maybe 2 bullets of 5.56, I guess. Has higher bash armor, significantly more cut armor. Melee skill and whatnot, again, are only really concerning if you get into range of them. But yeah, it's concerning. What is their speed? I guess if it's not listed, it hasn't been changed. So presumably just as fast. Special abilities also is where this deviates, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And then the cooldown on that special ability is 15 turns rather than 20 turns. So the zombie bio-operator has that body slam ability. What's it called? Biojutsu Takedown. Which is where it knocks you to the ground and trips you or kicks you or whatever. And it's not good for your character. And it's certainly not good to have to stand up next to this guy. So they can still do that. However, they also have the ability to impale you or disarm you, which are incredibly scary things. I don't know about you, but it being impaled is generally a downer for me. And being disarmed is like horrifying when you're fighting a monster. So yeah, 75% chance to deal 8 to 24 stab damage to a random body part, and a 25% chance to crit, which is the really scary thing, and deal 12 to 36 damage and inflict bleeding onto that random body part. Can be dodged and blocked by armor, but still pretty scary. Even if it's blocked by armor, if it is blocked by armor, it won't inflict bleeding. Bionic, makes them crazy. The disarm removes the target's weapon from their hands and drops it on a random space next to us, which is, again, pretty scary when you're trying to fight something and it takes your gun away from you. That's not great, or your spear or whatever. So, based on that little bit of information, it's random, by the way. It pulls one of these three at random. Honestly, the takedown is probably the tamest of all of that. Unless you have really great armor, you might be hoping for the impale because you can just tank that. And it doesn't disarm you or knock you down. So it's not good, though. You definitely don't want that to happen. Definitely engage them at range. I assume you can find them in the same places you would normally find those other bio-operators, because I'm assuming this is an upgraded version that they will evolve into. Finally, their CBMs are a little bit differently, work a little bit differently. They actually, instead of utilizing the existing pools, the Elite Bio-Operator has the same drop pool. However, they were the pinnacle of military bionic research, and the sheer amount of CBMs installed in their body pushes them to the limit and possibly beyond. Blah, blah, etc. When dissected for CBMs, you can find up to 3, which is unusual. Most are, 1 to 2 on most zombies. However, they do not give power storage CBMs, so you're pretty guaranteed to get something good. 1 CBM from 3 separate pools can be found. These are the pools and CBMs. If you're interested, again, there's a link in the description down below. mostly it's pretty good stuff, frankly, and you definitely want to butcher these guys for goodies. And in fact, I would argue that if you find a bunch of regular bio operators, you might want to leave and let them upgrade, so you can get a better shot at some good CBMs. So let's look at their spawn delay. No longer evolves. I wanted to see BioOp 2. Good God. Okay. No. I'm looking for will it upgrade. Okay. Bio operator does not appear to upgrade. Okay. That's interesting. I'm not sure why they removed that. I guess these just spawn at random. There is no... the bio operator will not upgrade into the operator 2. I'm not sure. I also hate that you just named it 2. Really should have got its own name so it's a little easier to differentiate. Yeah, so that's unusual. Yeah, so it looks like the bio operators do not actually upgrade into the second bio operator. So they're only going to be spawned. They're not going to be evolved forms. So that's something of note, and that's mainly what I was looking for there. So yeah, definitely dangerous and definitely a scary thing to encounter, but ultimately by the time you see them, you will have guns, and I don't really imagine they'll be an enormous threat. They are, of course, fast-ish, so it is something to be aware of. You know, if you're going to get right up on something, it can be a little bit scary. What is your speed, my friend? 95? I mean, that's not crazy fast, but pretty fast. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for them. Definitely the main focus here would be the CBMs that you will get from them. I think it's cool. I think it's fine. Yeah, it's a neat change. I mean, what do you want to say about it? It's something. This is from Highmore, by the way. I feel like I always forget to mention people's names, and I feel guilty about it later. So yeah, it's fine. I actually really dislike that the bio operators exist in the first place. We've had discussions before about what the capabilities of zombies should be. And having this super master, you know, kung fu bionic zombie is just something that's always rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. It doesn't really fit with a lot of the other creatures, especially when they started nerfing zombies so they don't have a lot of advanced abilities. So like scientists don't throw acid anymore. They don't do... man hacks anymore. That stuff was given to robots instead. So it's always kind of bothered me a little bit that the bio operator got to be, you know, just gets to be what he wants to be. You know, he just gets to have kung fu even though he's a zombie, and that always really bothered me. So personally, I'm not a fan of them from a lore perspective, but these are definitely great. These are an excellent source of CBMs and definitely something to keep your eye out for. And I always like seeing new zombies added to the game. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully that all made sense. Hopefully I wasn't a rambly idiot. So for now, that's going to do it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. I'll be back with more in the near future, and I'll see you in the next episode.